Ever feel like you're going up against a Goliath? You know, a system or an opponent so powerful that change just seems impossible. Well, what if I told you there's this playbook, like for the underdog, a set of rules that can actually shift the balance of power, and in some really surprising ways? Well, that's what we're diving into today, the tactics of Saul Alinsky. He's called the father of community organizing.
Alinsky, yeah. He was a sociologist, shaped by the Great Depression. And he really shook things up back in the 1900s. He really believed in empowering everyday people to challenge the status quo. What's fascinating is that his ideas, they didn't just fade away. The Industrial Areas Foundation that he founded is still going strong today.
I know, it's incredible. It's really undeniable. His impact is undeniable, right? So today we're going to explore some of Alinsky's core principles, and these are drawn directly from his writings. But we won't just stop at the what. Like, what did he say? We'll unpack the why. Why are these tactics so effective? And perhaps even more intriguingly, why might they surprise you?
Great questions. Let's start with one of Alinsky's most fundamental insights, power perception. He argues that power isn't just about what you actually possess, but what others think you possess.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like a form of psychological warfare,
Wow. So it's not just the cards you're holding, but how you play them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Think about the Montgomery bus boycott. So African Americans made up a significant portion of the bus ridership, but their economic power was often underestimated. By organizing a boycott, they made that power visible. They forced the city to actually confront the economic consequences of segregation. And it wasn't just about the numbers, it was about how those numbers were perceived.
That's a really good point. That's a really good example of how shifting perceptions can create leverage. It makes me think about how often we underestimate our own potential power.
Absolutely. Alinsky believed that recognizing and projecting that power, that's the first step towards creating change.
So Alinsky didn't just talk about projecting power. He also had some interesting thoughts on focus. He talked about staying in your lane.
He called it tactics. And he believed that overreaching, trying to tackle everything at once, can actually dilute your message. It can weaken your impact.
So it's about choosing your battles strategically.
Precisely.
Okay.
Imagine a local group successfully advocating for better park maintenance in their neighborhood. They have a clear goal, they have a dedicated base, and they know the ins and outs of their community. But if they suddenly decided to tackle complex international environmental policies, they risk spreading themselves too thin, losing their effectiveness.
I see. It makes sense. You can't be an expert on everything. Sometimes it's better to focus on one specific area and become a real force for change within that. So, Alinsky also believed that once you've chosen your battle, you got to keep the pressure on. He argued that constant, relentless action is key to preventing your opponent from regaining their footing. So it's not just about making a big splash one time, it's about sustained effort over time.
Think of it like waves eroding a coastline. One wave might not do much, but the constant pounding eventually reshapes the whole landscape. Alinsky believed that social movements need to create that same kind of persistent pressure.
I see. So protests, media campaigns, legal actions, all of these can be part of keeping the heat on.
Exactly. It's about maintaining momentum, keeping the issue on everyone's radar, and ultimately wearing down the opposition.
Right. Okay, so now here's where Alinsky gets a little controversial.
Okay.
He argued that humor and ridicule could be powerful weapons for social change.
Yeah, this is one of his more provocative tactics, I guess you could say. He suggested that satire, mockery, even playful teasing, it can be used to undermine the dignity and authority of the opposition.
This is reminding me of political cartoons and late-night comedy shows,
Yeah.
They can definitely shape public opinion, sometimes more effectively than straightforward arguments.
Yeah, and Alinsky, he understood the power of humor to disarm and expose hypocrisy. However, he also cautioned that this tactic needs to be used skillfully, because if it comes across as mean-spirited or petty, it can backfire. It can alienate potential supporters.
Right. It's a very delicate balance finding the humor without losing sight of the message. Alinsky also stressed the importance of personalizing conflicts, didn't he? He said, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and polarize it.
Yeah. This tactic is all about making the conflict feel real and immediate. So instead of just railing against some faceless institution, you focus on a specific individual, a specific entity.
Oh, can you give me an example of how that might work in practice?
Sure, imagine a community fighting against a polluting factory. Instead of just protesting the factory as a whole, they could focus their attention on the CEO. They could research their background, highlight their lavish lifestyle, contrast it with the suffering caused by the factory's pollution. This puts a face on the problem, forces people to confront the human impact of the issue.
Yeah. So it's about making it harder to ignore the problem, to just say it's just business.
Exactly. Alinsky believed that by personalizing the conflict, you force people to take sides.
I see.
It makes it much harder to remain neutral.
That's really interesting. So Alinsky's tactics really force us to think about, who or what is really driving the problems that we see. It's a way of cutting through the noise and getting to the heart of the matter.
Absolutely.
This has been a fascinating look into Alinsky's playbook for change. His ideas, even though they were developed decades ago, still feel incredibly relevant today.
Yeah, you can see his influence everywhere, from grassroots movements to national political campaigns, the way groups use social media to build support, apply pressure, shape narratives. It's all very Alinsky, very much in line with his principles.
He really seemed to understand the fundamentals of power dynamics.
Yeah.
In a way that really transcends any particular time or technology.
That's true, and that's probably why he remains such a controversial figure, His ends justify the means philosophy. It's sparked a lot of debate over the years.
Can you elaborate on that a bit? Like, what did he mean by the ends justify the means, and why has it been so contentious?
Hey there, listeners. If you're finding value in our deep dives and want to dig even deeper, consider grabbing a copy through the Amazon link in the description below. And if you're an audiobook fan, you can dive in with a free 2-month Audible trial on us. Our gift to you. It's a great way to support the channel, explore amazing works on the go, and immerse yourself in these thought-provoking ideas. So, check out those links in the description, and thank you for supporting our work. And we'll keep the deep dives coming.
Well, Alinsky believed that the morality of a tactic should be judged solely by its outcome. So if a tactic is effective in achieving a desired goal, then in his view, it's justified, right? This perspective has led some to accuse him of promoting a cynical, even a Machiavellian approach to activism.
So it raises questions about where we draw the line ethically. Are there any tactics that are just simply off limits, regardless of the potential good they might achieve?
That's a question that each individual and each movement has to grapple with, There are no easy answers. Alinsky's work forces us to confront these uncomfortable questions about power, about strategy, and the lengths to which we're willing to go for what we believe in.
It's a reminder that even when fighting for noble goals, we have to be mindful of the methods we use.
Precisely. Alinsky's legacy isn't just about specific tactics. It's about a way of thinking, a way of approaching power dynamics that continues to challenge and provoke us,
He certainly left behind a complex and controversial body of work. But one thing's for sure, he made people think differently about how change happens. He challenged us to recognize our own agency in shaping the world around us.
Yeah, his work serves as a constant reminder that power isn't static. It can be challenged, it can be shifted, and sometimes the most unexpected tactics can lead to the most profound changes.
And that's a really powerful message, whether you agree with all of his methods or not.
Absolutely. Alinsky's legacy is a testament to the power of organized communities, and the unwavering spirit of those who dare to fight for a better world.
Alinsky's work has certainly given us a lot to think about. His tactics, they're both fascinating and controversial, but they highlight a crucial point, right? Change doesn't happen by accident.
No, it doesn't.
It requires strategy, understanding power dynamics, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Alinsky believed that everyday people, they have the power to create change if they are organized, if they're strategic. And that's perhaps his most enduring legacy. Inspiring people to believe in their own agency, to take action.
Yeah, he really seemed to have a knack for turning conventional wisdom on its head. For instance, he embraced conflict as a necessary part of social change.
Right. He saw conflict not as something to be avoided, but as an opportunity, really. An opportunity to expose injustice and force those in power to confront the demands of the disempowered.
That's a very different way of looking at things. Most people see conflict as something negative, something to be avoided at all costs.
But Alinsky, he argued that well-managed conflict, it can actually be constructive. It can bring issues to the surface, raise awareness, and create the pressure needed for meaningful change.
It makes me think about how often those in power, they try to silence dissent or sweep problems under the rug.
Yeah, and Alinsky would say that's exactly what they want, right?
Right.
They want to maintain the status quo, protect their own interests.
Of course, of course.
He believed that it's up to those who want change to disrupt that complacency, force those in power to listen.
So it's not just about having the right ideas. It's about making those ideas heard, making them impossible to ignore.
That's the essence of Alinsky's approach, yeah. He believed that power concedes nothing without a demand.
And that those demands need to be backed by a strong, organized base.
Absolutely, yeah. Alinsky's whole philosophy, it was centered around community organizing, building power from the ground up. He understood that real change, it comes from collective action, from people uniting around shared goals and working together to create a more just and equitable world.
So what are some key takeaways our listeners can glean from Alinsky's work? What are the practical lessons that we can apply to our own lives, and communities?
I would say one of the most important lessons is to recognize that power, it's dynamic.
Okay.
It's not something that is simply given or taken away. It's constantly negotiated, contested, redefined.
It means we're not just pawns in a game. We're active participants who can actually shape the rules of the game.
Exactly.
Wow, that's empowering.
Alinsky, he encourages us to see ourselves as agents of change, not just passive observers of the world around us.
He also stresses the importance of strategy, of being deliberate and thoughtful about how we approach the pursuit of change.
Yeah, we need to analyze the systems that we want to change, understand who holds power, develop tactics that are tailored to those specific circumstances. It's about being smart, being creative, persistent, in our pursuit of justice.
It's clear that Alinsky's work, even though it was written decades ago, still has a lot to teach us about how change happens.
Yeah, his insights into power, into strategy, the art of community organizing, they're timeless, and they offer valuable lessons for anyone, really, who wants to make a difference, whether that's in their local community, in their workplace, or on a larger scale.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of Saul Alinsky.
It has.
We've explored his, controversial tactics, his enduring legacy, the provocative questions he raises about power, about ethics, the pursuit of social change.
Yeah, really makes you think.
It really does. If you found this discussion thought-provoking and you want to learn more about Alinsky's work, we highly recommend picking up his book, Rules for Radicals. You can actually find a link to purchase the book in the show description below.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the ideas and movements that are shaping the world around us. We'll continue to explore complex topics, challenge conventional thinking, and hopefully inspire you to become more engaged citizens.
It's been great chatting about this. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.
Always a pleasure.